crew Podcast Network presents ASTSpeaks. Speaks with Queen Mother Dr. Chen. Live every first and third Thursday at 8 p.m. EST. Culture, healing, heritage, spirituality, Caribbean roots and African diaspora rising. From St. Croix shores to the world so wide, Queen Mother Dr. Chen brings truth with pride. Culture in the rhythm, wisdom in the sound, healing for the people, roots in sacred ground. She keeps the story, she keeps it alive. African diaspora, we rise and thrive. Caribbean voices, bold and free, honoring ancestors, shaping destiny. As we speak, so let the people know, culture and healing in a reggae flow. As this speaks, heritage strong, spiritual wisdom all night long. Every first and third Thursday, tune in live. 8 p.m. EST, come feel the vibe. As this speaks, we rise, we seek. Queen Mother Dr. Chen, I speak. This kickstanding, preserving the flame, teaching our people to honor the name. We're moving with chats for life, culture, healing, art, spirit, and life.
And we could go on with that for quite a while, but we're going to stay very focused in our desire for today. We really would like to encourage persons that are tuning in, share this message of ASTSpeaks, building a new legacy in your networks. We are really continuing, or I should say, continuing the legacy of culture, healing, arts, technology, and spirituality that support life, inspiration, freedom, and edification. And once again, we are joined by none other than the Honorable His Royal Majesty King Bungane III of the Embo Kingdom. So before we move into that portion, I just would like to make sure for persons that are not as familiar that they take a moment, deep reflection, so that we can actually see, and just take a moment of silence, a moment of reflection before we begin.
Izibongo zikaBhungane kaNtsele, uBhungane wamakhulukhulu, undlu bezamele endaweni ngoba zamele entundeleni kwaSothondoza, umsiko wezithotho zabalandakazi, kaze abalandakazi bazozila ngani. uBhungane wawubuza umuzi wazi, wawubuza umuzi kaMaluleka, wawubuza umuzi kaNomane. Isihlahla seshungu sebhelebhele siyagawula sewanquma amazembe, zembe lisemsamo kwamnxanga, lihlahlela abazovela. Bhungane khawula abantu, awuseze wembetha ngubo, mvune abantu njengamabele, bombatha ngubo. uBhungane ngalwa nankunzinye, zingona kumhlanganyela kuzwakale. uBhungane wakhe inkomini ezimpondo, yathi semphinjeni yadla amalala, isihoho sidla silila, sililele mhlambi yabantu, yabojabanqa mntakaMphila. uBhungane indikinda indaba, uzoba indaba nakuzikhundlwane, uHalenyathi indlovu yakwamazibuko, emaphumule emanzinzinini, equla ngawe emazibukweni, inkamsamlomo ungengazibuko. uMathukwalile njengomntwana, indlovu yakwamqada oluphondo lunye, elikhanyisela izimpondo ngambili, lingelengele ladla imithi yakwaBhunga, wabulela umafukwabo kwabo. Namhla akwaba ndaba zalutho.
And we're going to take a moment, as we've started, to bring this truth to power, bring this light in our conversation. We're having an opportunity to share a number of things. We're hoping that our guests will tune in with us so that we can have the opportunity to... Can you hear us now? Okay, so we are now having that particular engaging problem. We have with us King Bungane III of the Embo Kingdom in South Africa. And I really would like to highlight, I'm hoping that he can hear us. If he is unable to hear us, can you hear us, Your Majesty?
Yes, I can hear you, but the
Fantastic.
voice keeps on cutting. I don't know, maybe we can have the option of me using the audio one.
Well,
The one
okay.
on the, maybe.
I hear you perfectly. You might not hear us, but we're hearing you right now perfectly. So what I would like to do, and I will make sure that
Is it okay on your side if I
yes.
I
Well,
I call, maybe use the WhatsApp call?
we could do that. I just like when persons can hear and see you. And we're going to work through that again because that's one of the challenges. Are you able? It's still cutting out now. All right, viewers and listeners, we did try to make this work. We will have to resort to my my less than comfortable platform. Not sure how to make that happen, so we will just do that accordingly. We will do the usual because it seems like we're having uh, an issue with connectivity. So we will try our best to see what we can create here. In the interim, I would love to invite people who have questions to please share those questions with us, to just let us know what are some of the inquiries you may have in learning about the Embo Kingdom. I would also encourage persons that are not as familiar to look very carefully and, of course, with what I refer to as sacred intention all the time. Greetings, Bayete.
My apologies.
Not a problem. We will just do it this way. I was sharing with the viewers. I prefer to have you live, but I understand that we're continuing to have some other problems in the background. So it's fine. It's fine. I have quite a few pictures of you, so I can show the pictures of you. As the yes, Bayete. The intention has been to let persons know specifically what are some of the, what is the Embo Kingdom, Your Majesty, and how do we speak of the kingdom in a way that we can speak of the ancient portion first, and then before as we're moving through today's broadcast, you can speak to how this is done in contemporary times. What are the mission and the vision? So if we can start with what persons were listening to earlier was the praise song before His Royal Majesty King Bungane III speaks. And I think it's very important that we share that so that persons understand that we're recognizing and respecting our royalty just as every other sovereign nation does. I'm not going to add anything to that. Bayete. So please share, Your Majesty.
Yeah, then I'll come back to the history, but the praise is what you were listening to. It is done by a praise singer praising the very same king who's reigning at that particular moment. How do they praise him? They praise him with his works, his deeds, how he behaved, how he connects with his people. And then out of that, and then the praises have been put together, how the king is born, how he was chosen. Those are praises that are put together. And when they do that, it is a way of connecting with ancestors, meaning reconnecting, calling your ancestors to connect with you. That's why when praises are done, we all stand up as men. Women, they sit down, meaning in the ancient times, women would use a certain grass that they would put together and put on the ground, and then women would give respect by sitting down, and then men would stand up, because it is now revoking the spirits. Now we are inviting the spirits in everything that we are doing. We don't do things without connecting with the spirits, because the very same king who is there, he's not a king that chose himself, or it is a king that chose by his people, but he is chosen by the creator, chosen by the same spirits that converge and say, this is our choice, this is the type of person that we want. And then that person then would be the descendant to from the heavens to the earth through the mother who's going to give birth to
Bayete. If you can also share, thank you for that, to help persons recognize that we're speaking in a form that supports and welcomes and values our tradition, that supports and welcomes and values our legacy. I had an opportunity with you sharing the information from your website at Embo Kingdom of Africa.co.za, and I encourage persons to go there to just get an idea of what the Embo Kingdom in South Africa, which, and I say in South Africa, but I realize from what you have shared in previous broadcasts that it goes beyond the colonial borders that define what is South Africa and other parts of the African continent. So I would love for you to speak to some of the ancient traditions, and just so the persons have an idea, like where is the Embo Kingdom located? Like, is it near Johannesburg, near Cape Town? Like, where is it physically or geographically more correctly located?
Currently, Embo is in the side of the eastern part of South Africa, meaning it's in Mpumalanga. Mpumalanga, it is where in English is the place of the rising sun. That's where it comes from. Where it is, it's in a location called Gromkrans. It is in a farm. That's where it is. That's where we also in the palace is born, but at the same time there's a place of prayer in the same yard where the palace is.
Bayete. And so for those people that know how Dr. Chen operates, I'm searching and making sure that we have some maps that will at least provide some context. If you can also share how your life transformed when you came to accept the sacred appointment as a king, Your Majesty. Bayete.
But remember, first, I think, let me give the background of the kingdom.
Thank you.
Our kingdom, it's a divine kingdom. A king is not chosen by people; is chosen by our spirits, meaning it is heavenly connected. Now, what our elders told us, because this is an oral history, and for me to be the king, I was taken to an oral school where I must be there for almost 4 months for them to teach me whatever. There was no day offs during my induction. It was from the morning until the evening. You know, I remember I asked them permission to record. They said, we don't record here. We don't know. I said, no, I have a tape. I have a tape recorder. They said, no, it does not work. We need to talk to you. We need to talk to you. You must grasp this. Now, the history it is shared as follows: that the first king who came on earth, it was because there was a discussion in heaven to say they needed to create an extension of heaven on earth. So most of the spirits were operating without being seen. So there was a decision to say, let's make them visible, meaning the creation of what we are, the human beings. So, but the human beings could not function without proper culture and traditions and customs of heaven on earth. They needed somebody to constantly remind them of the do's and the don'ts of heaven and the culture, so that they must not be totally independent without being guided by somebody. They must understand that what they know of heaven, earth becomes the replica of heaven. That's how it was created. Now a king becomes a king, not appointed by human beings, as I said, appointed in heaven, and he becomes the custodian. He becomes the reminder of our people to say, this is how we do things in heaven. We pray, we behave in such a manner, we do things in this particular way, and then so that we are able, for these days that they have borrowed us this particular flesh, the spirit must be able to go back where it came from. So the king becomes the primary person to be the constant reminder of our people, to become the representative of heaven on earth, and our kingdoms become the representatives of heaven on earth. That's why the council and the king must be people who are pure, must be people who do not associate with blood, must not be people who kill or uses spears to kill whatever, animals or whatever. It becomes people who do not dwell into sin. So a king becomes the custodian of all these things. He must be an exemplary to our people. He must not fornicate, he must not do all the wrong things. He must be an exemplary. So the palace where the king lives becomes a spiritual place where people come in with their problems and they leave problems being resolved too. It becomes a spiritual place, a residence where people, when they need to be healed, they go there. And a king is not a person that is constantly being seen by people. It is a rare species. Whenever, if you become into contact with that person, that is the king. You know that when you see him, you are being healed, whatever diseases. And then the king does not shake hands. We don't shake hands. And in our palace, we've got the do's and the don'ts. When you enter the palace, there are things that you need to be inducted for you to be in it. Yes. So we have those rules and regulations. So we Embo, it is what we refer as the embryo. The first person who became the king came out of the waters. That's purity, number one. He became the king. He was wearing a leopard skin, and then he became the one that he's been appointed. So we, from Embo, we are the direct descendant of that person, and therefore we are the custodian of that particular stick that must be governed. So, as I said, we don't choose. A king is chosen. I think you saw the crown prince, how he behaves. Yes. He is very young, but he does not behave like young people. It's because he knows that after me, it is him who takes over. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that, Your Royal Majesty. It's important also, and I'm going to ask that question for the purposes of our viewers and listeners. Please share the name of His Royal Majesty, the Crown Prince, so that because I know I will. Yes.
Yeah, his name is Makosa Diva. Now, let me explain something very critical. Our children, I don't name them. It is the spirits that comes and give names, and then they give me the ritual how a child must be processed for them to be where they are. For an example, a child when is born in our kingdom, immediately when he's born 1 month, that child must be taken to the river. Remember, I said the first king came out of the waters, came out of the river. Our child, when he or she is born, must be taken to the river when that child is 1 month, and must be smeared the whole body with the clay, the river clay, the clay from the river, and then must be covered with a leopard skin and be presented to the waters to say, this is your child, this is 1, 2, 3. And then there's a name for those species that they come out of the water. I'll just tell you now. I've just forgotten the name. They come out and then they cover the child, and then they cover the stone that is in the river where we have placed the child, because we make the child to sleep in the middle of the river. There's a stone with a covered skin, leopard skin, and then those things that will come out of the water to play on top of the child. And then after that, we then take the child and wash the child, that clay that has covered the child. Why do we wash it? We want the aroma must connect with the water. And then we then cover the child with the skin again. And then when the child reaches 1 year, there's another ritual that we do. It is done with a permission of the spirits. We then slaughter. We don't just slaughter. We slaughter with the permission of the spirits and the heavens when we slaughter a goat, because there are certain things that we need from the goat to smear this particular child, to do a ritual for that child to be. And then our children, for an example, maybe you saw the crown prince. He was not combing his hair. Maybe you saw me also. I was just using my hands as a brush for my hair. So our children are not using comb to brush. Even the daughters, they don't do that. That is our yes.
No, thank you for sharing that, because see, sometimes people think that these are things that are done of a lesser form, or that they have like an air that is not of greatness of God, of the Creator, of the Almighty. And so when you're saying spirit, I would like to make sure, for the purposes of those that are viewing and listening, that we're speaking of that sacred, ancestral, spiritual tradition of these different rituals or rites. The same way that persons in contemporary times may speak of holy water and anointing children and those that are royal in that capacity, or a better term, a baptism, or a healing and blessing of space, like a home blessing, making sure that when a child is born, that they are completely protected from any spirit that would try to harm or interfere with the sacred destiny. Let me make sure I say that correctly. Because as you're speaking, and I know how many of our brothers and sisters globally have been trained to perceive African sacred traditions. And I encourage persons to listen to what is being shared in the context of that, so that as we're discussing the Embo Kingdom, for those that have just joined, we're here with His Royal Majesty King Bungane III of the Embo Kingdom in Africa. And he has already shared with us a bit of what their connections are in terms of the rites and the rituals of the royals, as well as what is provided for and done with permission. Make sure I say that again, with permission of infinite source. That people have, we say spirit, some people say God, some people, and I think it's important that persons recognize that we're speaking in that context. And as we're moving forward, because, I did get an opportunity to speak with you, Your Majesty, and have some other questions, just so that persons can begin to see how are these sacred spiritual kingdoms established, and like what is the vision, what is the mission. I mean, we can easily go to the website and see that you all have that already set out, but there's a lot that you do in terms of respecting indigenous traditions, in terms of maintaining peace and tranquility in the communities. You made a very clear comment regarding the respect for self, family, and others that we share our humanity with. Can you speak to some of the other elements, or I should say establish and share with us what is established at the Embo Kingdom, like what is required of you, what is required of people that visit, and things of that nature, please. Bayete.
But as I said, there are those animals that they come from the river. I just wanted to clear that first.
Yes.
It is called the crabs. No, crabs, they come out of the river. Those are the crabs that will show that this is the chosen child again. Now, before I complete your question, now for a king again, there's a ritual that again that I just forgotten to mention. For a king, when he is ready to be sitting in the throne. Now the throne, remember, according to Embo traditions, that's what I was taught, and that's what we were taught at home. The chair, in our palace, we have a chair where I don't sit, where nobody sits, because that chair does not belong to me, it belongs to the Creator. That's very critical.
Okay,
it's not my chair, it's not anybody's chair in the house. They in the palace. And then there are also other chairs that nobody sits in those chairs because they belong to the high council in heaven.
Okay.
That's what we do.
Thank you.
We don't occupy those things. And then two, a king, when he is to be chosen, there's certain rituals that he must undergo. One, there's a calabash that is been prepared by the elders. And then that calabash, as it has been prepared by the elders, they pour a certain traditional medicine. They put it in the center of a heart, meaning those ancient hearts, and then they pour water. And then in that process, when that is done, they refer to you as this person. They are not calling you Bungane, they are not calling you whatever name. They said, this person says he is our king. You, the spirits, you, the ancestors, do you approve of him? Then they tell you, they say, the first phase, if they approve, the foam is going to come out of this calabash. That is the first phase. And if they approve that you are their king. And then number two, the phase two, they're going to make you to drink this particular medicine that has been prepared in this calabash. If you are not the king, in the next 45 minutes, this medicine, after drinking it, it is going to kill you instantly. Now, when you have drank that medicine for that 45 minutes, they don't speak to you. The elderly people, the elderly women, they are there, men, they are there watching. And that process, it is done around about 3 a.m. in the morning. When they give that medicine to drink. And then whilst you are seated alone, they are watching you, how you behave. Is it complicating you? Is it killing you? Whatever. Then after 45 minutes, you are then taken to the crawl, where you are now going to be given a 20-liter cold water to vomit the medicine because it did not kill you. And then in the afternoon, they're going to prepare with a goat, a special ceremony. And then after that, the next day, they're going to pour a gall on your head and your hands and your feet. And then what they do is that there's a certain skin they put in your hand, and then they give you a stick to say, yes, you are ready to be. Then there will be a ceremony that is going to be done. That ceremony, it is a public now ceremony to be presenting you to the people to say, this is the man who has passed the test. Yes, it is the one that is chosen. This is the man that is going to be in charge of the kingdom. Then whilst you do that, now remember, you are not just only chosen, you must be a divine person. You must live a divine lifestyle. You must possess powers for healing. You must possess powers to see things that no human beings can see, because you are the representative of the Creator on earth. When they see you, they see the Creator on earth. So you become the person that must be, yes, you must be the holy of the holiest on earth. That is the role. And then when you are sitting on the throne, you don't take sides. You don't side with any grouping. You become non-aligned, because remember, if you do so in heaven. Now, okay, before I tell you that, now we are also told that wherever you are, there's an angel that you don't see, who is invisible, who has a writing pad, who writes whatever wrong and the right things we are doing. And every day of your life, you write a chapter of your book. Remember, fortnightly, your book has been submitted. If you are a king that is not honest, is deceiving, you must know out of 100% of your life, 20% of your life is kept in heaven. 80% is the one that you must complete on earth. If you live a life that is not good, that book every fortnightly they present it. If they find you that before you complete your days on earth, you have completed that 80%, then you will die mysteriously. Ooh. So that's the background. That's why you see me, maybe you saw me, how I behave, how I do things when we were together in Uganda. You'd see a totally different person.
Yes. Bayete. That's why having these types of conversations become very telling for all of us, because what has been the course of how we engage has been very, very challenging. We tend to misrepresent how we see Africa. We tend to misrepresent how we see Africans outside of the African continent. And I'm going to say that twice for persons in the back, because sometimes we don't get an opportunity to really have these types of discussions. So one of the purposes of today's broadcast, and just for those that have just joined us, and I'm saying it in that form, is to really speak of truth, justice, order, reciprocity, balance, divine righteousness, and harmony in a way that lets us speak of the ancient Embo kingdom and those traditions. And I'm grateful that you have taken some steps to explain certain things that are quite detailed. Some persons may be able to understand, but I hope with more discussions, more engagement, and if persons have questions, share them in the platforms, whether you're viewing on Facebook or if you're viewing on YouTube, so that we can at least ask the questions directly to those that can answer it most appropriately. But also the role of the ancient Embo kingdom and how in contemporary times in South African life, there's been a shift in course, a shift in engagement, a shift in how persons understand those ancient traditions and then apply them in the 21st century. And one of the things that is really pronounced very clearly on the websites and the various programs, I've seen other interviews that you've done. This is something that you do quite frequently. People refer to you not only as a royal, majestic king, but they refer to you, they know your legacy as a freedom fighter and activist in the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa, from a very young age. They also know of you as a creative, as a musician, internationally recognized and renowned musician. They also know you as a peacekeeper, in terms of restoring peaceful engagements and traditions, where you have been involved in celebrating and preserving the very rich cultural heritage and traditions of the teachings of Bungane and the Embo kingdom globally, right? So I would love for you to speak to some of the areas of education that you would like, some of our viewers and listeners to learn about, some of the resources that persons can engage in, when you have certain annual or seasonal cultural celebrations, just so people understand that when you're saying spirit, that this isn't like some woo kind of thing. This is like the sacred divine linkage connection to infinite source, to the creator, right? I think it's, and I say that over and over again because many times especially on broadcasts that I do. Persons misrepresent what we're talking about when we speak of African spirituality or African sacred traditions or anything African for that matter. So I just would love for you, Your Majesty, to speak to some of that.
Right. Before I can maybe define the divinity in our aspect as Embo, because we hear a lot of people in the continent, they speak of spirituality. I don't think all of them understand exactly what it is meant by spirituality in our context. We as Embo, as I said, we subscribe to a notion that when we speak of divinity, it's something that has to do with heaven. It's something that it is not contaminated with earthly things. It must not be connected with killing people. We refer to ourselves as people who do not dwell into sin. What in our local dialect it will be referred as abantu abanguli, meaning people who do not dwell into sin. And it's very important. And also in our understanding, we have a different understanding of ancestors. Not every person who once lived on earth becomes an ancestor. Not everybody becomes an ancestor because they've got different categories. People who once lived on earth, those we define as ancestors from the definition of Embo as we were taught by our elders. Ancestors are people who live a divine lifestyle, people who subjected themselves to the rules of heaven. As I told you, how we were raised, how we are told to behave, so that people, when they come to you, they must come for healing, they must get a solution. So you must live a divine lifestyle. Now, an ancestor must be a person of that nature. Why do we say that? Because we've got another category that is influenced by demonic spirits, that they refer themselves as ancestors. Those people, what they do, they become witches on earth. They are jealous of other people. They become people who are doing wrong things on earth. So we were taught that if you do wrong things, you are not going to be accepted on the other side of the spiritual world, because we have broken the oath, of covenant. That oath of covenant, it must be a divine oath of covenant. So those people are rejected souls. They become rejected souls. They linger around the earth. They are not wanted on the other side. So that's what we are taught. So we live a divine lifestyle. So in Embo, everything we do, it must be connected with heavens. It must be the understanding that we are a replica of heaven on earth. The kingdom that we are leading must be divine in everything. Then we also have every Wednesday we meet, and then we have a gathering that we call a gathering of the spirits. And then what happens is that the divine spirits come. Also, those spirits that were not doing right on earth, they come to say, please ask for our forgiveness. We deal with that every Wednesday from 6:30, that is 18:30 South African time, until until 21:00. We meet every Wednesday. I'll tell you of an example. What was our topic yesterday? Our topic was the lack of pattern. The lack of pattern was what we were talking about, how people should pray, how people should connect with heaven. Now, we're making an example of a pattern that was given to Adam on earth at the Garden of Eden. For an example, a pattern was saying to was saying to Adam, Adam, you can eat from all the trees, but don't eat from that tree. It's a pattern. But a lot of people don't understand when they were brought on earth, there's a pattern that we're given to say this pattern, it will make you to connect with heaven. So we on our kingdom, we understand those patterns to say each and every person has his own pattern. For an example, a pattern of Samson, for an example, when you hear the story of Samson and Delilah, don't cut your hair, do not do 1, 2, 3. It's a pattern for you to be able to connect with your spirit, to connect, the list goes on and on. So everybody has that. So we have patterns that we keep. You understand? For example, you saw I don't cut my hair. It's a similar story of Samson. We don't comb our hair. My children don't do that. It's the same pattern that we are here as the kingdom. And also you saw a pattern that we use for healing, for cleansing. We use water, we use salt. It's a pattern, because if we use other things, nothing's going to come right. You understand? So it's a pattern that we were given to say, if you want to heal a person, pray for this water, ask permission from the Creator to bless this water to heal any sickness. That's a pattern. So most of us, we don't understand those patterns. Now we are totally far from those kingdoms that manifest themselves on earth, that are attached to mineral resources, that are attached to gold and stuff, that you see them shining, that are aligned with killing or colonizing other people, because we subscribe to an idea to say, who are you as a king? You want to go and colonize other people to be under you. The Creator knew when he was creating that particular tribe to say, these are your do's and the don'ts in this particular tribe. If you do this particular pattern, I will be able to understand that I'm talking to this particular grouping. So you then turn those people to say they are under you, and after those people, when they are under you, they must do things under your surname. We believe that when you do that, you are committing a crime in heaven. You are committing a crime it is abomination, that we have destroyed what the Creator has put together. So this is who we are. That's how we do things. Everything we do, our children, they know that this is how we pray. This is, we've got prayer points. We've got a way of communicating with the Creator. Yeah. Thank you.
Bayete, Your Majesty. So for those persons that are also tuning in, there's a couple of questions that have come up in the chat. So I do wish to highlight those questions. But before I do that, I really would like to also highlight that this was something that took place in Uganda with the Inter-University Symposium hosted by the Atacare International Development Organization. And at this particular time around African liberation, the intentionality has always been to place not just truth to power, but truth as power, to show that respect to some of the other activities that took place. Specifically, and I wanted to highlight before we move forward, that you were awarded a significant award for your royal statesmanship. And I think that it's just a moment of reflection. In this particular photo that we're sharing, it's showing one of the generals in the administration of the Office of the President of Uganda, as well as the Crown Prince of the Buganda community, Prince Wasaja, yourself at the center, and of course, the Crown Prince of the Embo Kingdom, which I thought was really a powerful moment to really speak of this type of engagement for highlighting the Embo Kingdom and the connection that the Embo Kingdom has in Africa. We tend to just highlight the South Africa regional part, but this is a global African initiative to have the traditions, the divinity, the spiritual grounding that you've referenced just now to be highlighted so persons can move in the direction of knowing that not every kingdom in the African continent operates in a singular, insular way. I think it's really important. That's why I desired for you to share. And, as we're putting up different photographs, we're putting up these different photographs so persons can see and know. For persons that aren't familiar, they can see the crown prince, just the way that he engages you as it's just a powerful love and respect for sacred traditions. It's a very powerful, honorable respect for our ancient traditions. And I just wanted to make sure that I didn't forget to say that while we're speaking about the Embo Kingdom and the connectivity that it has to the work that you do, Your Majesty, Bayete. I'd love for you to speak too around, so with all of this wonderful explication of, and we know we can do more, and that's going to happen in future podcasts where we can be doing it in small parts, because we don't wish for this to just be an overreaching part of just a history lesson. It is a history lesson, but we'd like for persons, if you have questions, if you have comments, please share them. One of our illustrious spiritually grounded youth here in II St. Croix, I always refer to him as one of my spirit sons. Sai, he asked, and he too is a creative. He's very knowledgeable on music, technology, DJing, all of that, audio engineering, videography, photography. And one of the questions that this young royal has asked is like, how do we get to know more about your work in the realm of music? Last time we had a chance to speak of some of the tours and productions that your band ensemble opened up for, greats like, from Hugh Masekela, Quincy Jones, and others. But I would love to know where we can find, and I know we would have to do some research, because with your royal responsibilities, you may not have the opportunity to do all of that now. But if you can also share with our viewers and listeners, where persons can see some of your catalog of music. And I'm going to pause for a second, because I also need to highlight, in the middle of the royal coronation in Serere, in the Atakere realm in Uganda, hosted by IDO Network and the Global African Diaspora Kingdom, His Royal Majesty drummed with the drummers. It was like, I said, we're still recovering from that. And I was looking to see if I was so excited that I think for that moment, for those moments, and I'm usually the camera person, but for those moments, Spirit just had us in watching you literally embrace the drum with these brothers and sisters from South Africa, Uganda, Burundi. It was powerful, and I just wanted to highlight. We might not have that catalog of music right now, but it's coming. It's coming. So please share with us some of the ways in which people can hear some of your musical productions and creations and catalog. Bayete.
Thank you very much. Bayete. When I grew up, I played with different bands as a drummer. I find myself. Let me just give you just a funny story. You'd laugh at this. When I was growing up, my tutor, when I was little, I was stammering. I could not speak like finishing a sentence. So I would rather be alone than to be with other kids, because they would laugh at me when I speak, you said. So my tutor found me seated at the corner street, he said to me, "Hey, how are you? Can we talk?" I said, "Okay." He said, do you want to play an instrument? I said, "Yes," but I was not sure, because I loved drums when I was a kid, so I was not sure. So, but as I was stammering, I told him, we need permission from my mother first, because I was very young at that time. I said, I needed permission to speak to my mom. if she says yes, then we can do it. And then he asked me, what time is your mom coming back? I said, around about 18:30. The guy came back, he spoke to my mom. My mom said, no, it's fine, you can take him tomorrow. And then you bring him back to me, Now, little did I realize, now I'm just giving a background on how I play drums, you would like. So this guy did not tell me that he had a crisis.
Oh.
Yeah, I was a problem solver. I was a rescuer. Little did I realize that I was a rescuer. The younger brother of this guy was a drummer. So this guy was a pianist. He used to sing. So the younger brother was very rude, very arrogant. When their band was starting to practice around about 18 hours, he would come at 7 and stand there and smoke. The band will wait for him to finish 2 cigarettes or 3, because they needed a drummer, you see. So I became a rescuer. So when he took me in, it was during the day, in the afternoon. And then he said to me, what do you like to play as a drums? And then it was a red drum kit. So I was just looking at it. He says that there is a drum kit. Now, the drum kit was on the right-hand side, meaning the setting was on the right. So I'm a left-hand drummer, So I then went into the room. He showed me a beat because he wanted me to rescue them. He wanted me to play a disco beat, like that's what he told me, this guy. That's all, Yeah, he said to me, play this. If you play this, me and you will be in good terms. Then he locked the door. That's what made me crazy, Oh. He says to me, I'll open this door when you play this beat. But a very funny thing is that the voice spoke to me and said, change these drums. I was alone in the room. I changed the snare drum to the left-hand side, to the right-hand side, to the right-hand side. And the hi-hat on the right-hand side also. Okay. The floor tom on the right. So I started playing a lot of beats from nowhere, This guy came running, he opened the door, he says, hey, who's playing here? I said, but you locked me in, how can you ask me? He says, you know what? He says to me, listen, don't change this drums anymore. This is how you must play from today. I said, okay. Then he challenged me the same day. He put me on the band. Can you imagine that? Same day when it was, I was like sitting there. Now, the challenge I had, it was keeping time, you see, because I'm not used to that. This is my first time sitting on drums. But the guy was very shrewd, the pianist. Now, why I'm telling you this, because I said you'd laugh at the story, is that when I lose time, when the tempo was losing, he would throw broken sticks to me and insult me. So I was not happy about that.
Of course.
So the next day he came looking for me. I told my mother, I'm not going back there. That guy was hitting me with sticks. He was insulting me. Then I hide myself underneath the bed, you see.
What? Okay. Okay.
Remember, I was a kid. I said, when I saw him coming, I said, Mom, there's this guy. Don't show him where I went underneath the bed. Our bed were elevated with tins in those days. Yeah. I said, I hide. My mother, now listen to this. My mother said to this guy, how are you? This guy said, no, I'm looking for Kulu, Mm-hmm. He said, oh, he's underneath the bed. That's what my mother said.
One time.
Jesus. I said, why this man? I told my mom this guy was like throwing sticks onto me. He was like insulting me. My mother just said, come out. This guy's looking for you. And then he says, next time, make sure that you lock the door. You must not run away. Mm-hmm. So I became the drummer. I became a drummer of that band. So the guy came at 19 hours as usual. I was on the drums sitting. He said to me, hey, you small boy, move out of the drums. The guys, all the band, they spoke to me simultaneously, all of them. You're not moving, sit there. sit there, you're not moving. I was like, hey, I was like scared, but I played. So from there, I graduated. I played with a very funny band, a hard rock, what they play, new wave music.
Okay.
Yeah, the drummer became my mentor, and then the other mentor that became my personal mentor was maybe you are familiar with a guy by the name of Hot Sticks Mabuza in South Africa, Sipho Hot Sticks. Who played with a band called Harare. That's the drum. I approached him as a young boy. He was like, "James, you want to play drums?" I said, "Yeah, I want to play like you." He said, "Okay." Then he introduced me to the band. Their band was famous in South Africa. Please Google their music. It's called Harare. So he became like a father to me. Whenever he called me, Kulus, come. And then I became a very close friend to the band. Up to today, they take me like their little boy, That's how you would, Sipho Hot Sticks, when I'm around, if there's a memorial or whatever playing, you'd say, you sit on my behalf, I'm playing saxophone now. When you sit there, it's me who's playing. So I grew up playing that. I also played with, I'm just giving you a journey how I graduated in music. Then I played with a band called Splash.
Excuse me, Bayete.
Yeah.
I just was,
Bayete,
while you're moving forward, I'm just letting the viewers and the listeners that aren't familiar with Hot Sticks to at least see a photograph of him. So the persons can just have it in their vision. But please, Bayete, Your Majesty.
He's I bow to him because he did not reject me as a young boy, because where I met him, they were playing the festival in Alexandra Township. They were playing live, wearing their red uniform. Maybe you can see from the Harare picture. They were wearing those. I admired this guy. He was playing a lot of drums. There were a lot of them, like 2 bass drums, double set. I said, gee, we'll see if I can play like this man. I'll be happy. I just, after they finished playing, I just pulled his trouser. He looked at me. I was a little boy. He said, yes. I said, please, can you teach me drums? He said, okay. Then he wrote an address for me to, I walked to that address. It's like walking about 10 to 15 kilometers to go there. I used to go there every afternoon, to go and study. So he decided to say, you know what, it is not safe of me to go in the evening. Come on weekends. Yeah. So I became his personal student. I bowed to him. And then from there, I played with a band called Splash. Splash is one of the reggae bands that used to play very political music. I was their musical director also. Then when I left South Africa, before I played with another band called Bungane Band, because they used to come and look for me. Bands used to like this young boy who's got energy, and I played with the Bungane Band members are the ones that formed a band called Mango Groove. There's a band called Mango Groove in South Africa. These are the guys that I played with, the trumpeter and the guitarist, and these are the guys that I played in our band called Bungane Band. Then I moved to Exile. In Exile, I played with. That's where I became exposed. I became exposed to guys like Max Roach.
Yes,
Max Roach, the judge. Max Roach. Max Roach also became my personal tutor. May his soul rest in peace. He lived in Central Park in New York. He became my tutor. You'd call me even if I was back in South Africa. We would call each other in the morning. You'd call me, hi. That's how we used to speak. Hi, caller. How are you? Are you okay? Max Roach. He was my father to me, Wonderful. So he's also my tutor too. And then I met other musicians like Eddie Gomez. I also met Al Foster. Al Foster, remember, he insulted also me also. Yeah, because what I asked him to show me a pattern. So he was showing me. Al Foster used to play with Miles Davis.
Yeah.
He's a drummer. So yeah, so Al Foster, I remember when he was showing me the pattern, he says to me, faster, 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 faster. So I started playing the pattern faster. Then he says, you know what, motherfucker, you're just you just came here to tease me. I said, no. He said, how can you play this difficult pattern so fast? I said, but I want to learn. But he became my best friend also. Okay. I met him with Michel Petruziani, the pianist from France. Those were the people that I mingled with in my life, with Eddie Gomez, and then I also played with Hacknell from Simple Red. I played with Grace Jones.
Okay. Well, see, this is the other part of where we're gonna go, because we're gonna get ready to close now. But again, we're having these conversations, these discussions, so that persons can know a little more of the wholeness of what His Royal Majesty King Bungane III of the Embo Kingdom is engaged in. So I'm really grateful to hear that in addition to being able to give us this history of the ancient pathways and realms of the Embo Kingdom, how you have shifted coming from a very activist grounding space, and how you move through the music, and how, like I said, for the next broadcast, I will make sure that I have that music, that we're going to add that drum piece. I will pull on that, because I know that it's in some of the footage that the Idol Network and the GABK was able to gather while you were in Uganda. And I would love for us to at least move towards closing today's discussion around any other areas that you would like to speak to. And my usual is that while this is a very high side of the elevation of life and liberty amongst Africans, and particularly in South Africa, we are also dealing with some contemporary issues. And I would love, in the realm of peace, whatever message you would like to share in that regard, so that there can be the restoration of peace and balance. We can't talk about Pan-Africanism and reparatory justice and restitution and, collective responsibility and sovereign African prosperity if we're in the midst of war internally, amongst our own, with our own. And I'm grateful for whatever you can share as a message to our brothers and sisters, to know that what we may see in media is not the whole picture. That's one segment. And that there's another segment that moves with divinity, moves with sacred integrity, moves with remembering our ancestral sacred traditions, like now, as you've shared from the Embo Kingdom. So, Bayete, Your Royal Majesty.
Bayete, thank you, Bayete. Now, what is key is that, as an artist, we must know that the artists are divine people, are divine souls. It's very critical to say musicians of our order, we knew that we were not just musicians, but we were divine people. Now, the message that I would like to share is that, remember, we are one people. And then, yes, there are those that broke the covenant, but remember that we are one people, and we need to unite, we need to work together, and we need to move with the pace of the slowest. We cannot just judge people and say, this one is not right, this one is what. No, we need to move with the pace of the slowest, because remember, our duty, our roles on earth is to assist each other, to work each other, to work the land so that we leave it for those that are coming after us. They must find a better world so that they are able to continue. And also the media, we know that who controls the media space, in the capitalist world, they will make sure that they would want to deal with a certain image. But what we need to do, we need to find the truth. They say, when you hear a story, stories differ. There's what we call absolute truth. There's what we call relative truth. And then they say the absolute truth is the one that will set you free. So what we are dealing with now here is what we call absolute truth. So we need to go deeper. Don't just take one-sided story and think that South Africa, it is a country that is fighting against the Africans. Not everybody does that, yes. But history will then assure you to understand, to say who is against what. Because they say in everything that you are doing, in the last days, we will know the truth about you. Thank you.
Thank you. With that being said, I am going to really ask that we seal up today. It's been an honor and a privilege to speak with you again, His Royal Majesty King Bungane III at the Embo Kingdom. And I again encourage persons, and you can do this at your leisure. You can do this as it works best for you. And you can also do this so that it really gives you an opportunity to learn a little bit more about one of what we know as being quite many in the hundreds of kingdoms that surface in the 21st century. And I encourage persons to go to the Embo Kingdom of Africa, EMBO Kingdom of Africa.co.za, so that you can see for yourself a little bit about the heritage education, the cultural events, the community support, the values, the vision, the mission, their commitment. And let me correct myself, because His Royal Majesty said I have an invitation now. So our collective commitment to preservation, our goals for the future, Bayete, Your Royal Majesty, and there's projects. So, and when we say projects, and I would like to expand on that there's programs in place for persons that are desiring to be a part of the promotion and the celebration and the restoration of our African heritage in African spaces. And again, being able to share that globally. So you will see certain pictures of people that you know from the Caribbean. There's a large connectivity and an expansion with the Embo Kingdom through the Global African Diaspora Kingdom, with the support and grounding of the foundational cornerstones provided by IDO. And I encourage persons, go to the idonetwork.org site, look at the Global African Diaspora Kingdom site. If you have more questions, please feel free to contact myself. And I think I didn't say that in the beginning, Queen Mother Dr. ChenziRa of ASTSpeaks. And I serve as the host, but I am the host that brings as many voices of knowledge and wisdom and ancestral legacy teachings and traditions as I am able to, with the ancestors and the Creator guiding. So for those that do not have any more questions, because believe me, I'm looking and right. No, I'm laughing because the same young musician creative that I was referencing, DJ SI, and I need to say this publicly, and I want to, it's like, I'm going to put up on the screen what he says. He's like, what, you got to close now? Like in a sec, he's about to say he played with my family. Like, I'm just saying. So we know that, so for one of our next broadcasts because we were going to work on systematizing when we gather. And since Thursday mornings on this side, which are afternoon times in South Africa, work best, we're going to make sure that we just spend time on music. One of these sessions, we're just going to talk about just music. We're going to talk a bit about our vibe, but then because people are asking questions about learning more about the music, and they're just sending, their ashes. They're saying, Duantur, they're saying blessings. It's really wonderful to have this type of discussion with you. Whew, it's hard to say we're going to finish, but remember that culture heals humanity. Land is our foundation, and spiritual harmony unifies us. We encourage you to do your part and share with us here with ASTSpeaks, where we always bring our families, our communities, our societies, our nations, and our shared humanity together to really bring chats for life. And keep in mind what this means, folks: culture, healing, arts, technology, and spirituality for life, inspiration, freedom, and education through ancestral, sacred traditions. So when we say ASTSpeaks, I think you got the message now. Until our next broadcast, we encourage you to live free, live safe, and please live well.
That crew Podcast Network presents and speaks with Queen Mother Dr. Chen. Live every first and third Thursday at 8 p.m. EST. Culture, healing, heritage, spirituality, Caribbean roots, and African diaspora rising. From St. Christ Shores to the world so wide, Queen Mother Dr. Chen brings truth with pride. Culture in the rhythm, wisdom in the sound, healing for the people, roots in sacred ground. She keeps the story, she keeps it alive. African diaspora, we rise and thrive. Caribbean voices, bold and free, honoring ancestors, shaping destiny. As they speak, so let the people know, culture and healing in a reggae flow. As they speak, heritage strong, spiritual wisdom all night long. Every first and third Thursday, tune in live, 8 p.m. EST, come feel the vibe. We rise, we seek, Queen Mother Dr. Chen, I speak. This kickstanding, preserving the flame, teaching our people to honor the name. Rank moving with chats for life, culture, healing, art, spirit, and life. Technology, community, wisdom too, building up the people in all we do. From island roots to global lands, we remember, rise and stand. Pan-African vision, reparations call, justice and healing for one and all. Audible, these are my heart, hurry up too. Amazon Music bringing vibes to you. As they speak, let the people know, culture and healing in a reggae flow. As they speak, heritage strong, spiritual wisdom all night long. Strong. Every first and third Thursday, tune in live, 8 p.m. PST, come feel the vibe. As they speak, we rise, we see, Queen Mother Dr. Chen. Culture rising, healing flowing, heritage living, spirit knowing, dream that I seek.